The Forest Fashion Fiasco, A Benny Bear, and Ruby Rabbit Story. Every year, the animals of Fernwood Forest gathered for the Forest Fashion Show, a celebration of creativity, leaves, and plenty of glitter. Ruby Rabbit was practically bouncing with excitement. "This year," she declared, "I'm not just watching, I'm designing outfits." Benny Bear tilted his head. "Outfits made of leaves and twigs?" Ruby nodded proudly. "And moss, pine cones, flower petals, everything natural and fabulous." Benny smiled. "Can I help?" Ruby's eyes sparkled. "Absolutely. You'll be my assistant. Maybe even my model." Benny gulped. "Model?" By the next morning, Ruby's burrow was transformed into a forest fashion workshop. Colourful fabrics made from leaves hung on sticks, pine cone necklaces clinked on hooks, and vines were braided into belts. Benny sat at a tree stump, sorting shiny acorns into buttons and too delicious to use. "Careful with that glue," Ruby warned, passing him a pot of sticky sap. "It dries fast." Benny nodded and dabbed sap onto a necklace, but just as he reached for more moss, he sneezed. "Achoo!" Sap splattered everywhere, onto his paws, the floor, and worst of all, his fur. "Oh no," Benny moaned, trying to shake it off. "I'm stuck!" Ruby gasped. "Hold still!" But it was too late. As Benny stumbled backward, he tripped into the rack of leaf coats tangled in a net of vines and landed in a pile of petals, bark, and glitter. When the dust settled, Benny blinked. He was completely covered in bits of Ruby's designs. Ruby stared at him, stunned. Then she burst out laughing. "Benny," she giggled, "you look like a walking tree." Benny looked in the mirror. "I look like I fell into a craft explosion." But Ruby tilted her head, thoughtful. "Wait a minute. This might actually work." She grabbed a flower crown, adjusted a leaf sash, and added a few berries to his tail. "There, you are officially our first model. We'll call it the Accidental Garden Look." Benny shuffled his feet. "Do I really have to go on stage like this?" "Benny," Ruby said gently, "you helped me build all this. You're part of it, plus you might just be the star." That night, the forest was glowing with excitement. Lanterns hung from tree branches, a mossy runway stretched through the clearing, the crowd cheered as one by one animals strutted their stuff in leafy gowns and bark-covered boots. Then the announcer called, "Now presenting Benny Bear in the Accidental Garden." Benny took a deep breath and stepped onto the runway. He wobbled a little under the weight of twigs and tinsel, but he remembered Ruby's words and stood tall. The crowd gasped, then clapped wildly. "Look at the texture," whispered Owl. "The berries are genius," said Squirrel. Benny spun slowly, petals fluttering in the breeze. Someone tossed flower confetti. Ruby cheered the loudest from backstage. When he reached the end of the runway, Benny bowed. A glittery pine cone fell off his shoulder and landed perfectly in a hedgehog's lap. By the end of the show, animals surrounded their booth. "Who designed that look?" asked Deer. "Do you take orders?" Beaver added. "I need something for my cousin's wedding." Ruby beamed. "We're not open for business yet, but stay tuned." Back at her burrow, Benny finally peeled the last leaf off his fur. "That was amazing," Ruby said. "You were amazing." Benny smiled sleepily. "It wasn't so bad. Once I stopped feeling like a salad." Ruby giggled and passed him a cookie. "To Benny the Bear, accidental fashion star." He raised his cookie like a toast. "And to Ruby the Rabbit, the best designer in the forest." Outside, the stars twinkled, the last of the glitter floated through the air, and the forest buzzed with the memory of Benny's leafy runway walk. La City.